Boom, I'm in the room. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. Welcome from wherever you're watching from. Now, you're here because there's probably nothing on the telly. And I'm coming to you live from the old Heale Manor. Well, recorded from the old Heale Manor. And I'm your host, Lord Heale. Now, you know what this show's all about? It's all about taking the stigma out of mental health, looking at people's well-being and getting the conversation going. Now, I'm always looking for guests to come on and tell their stories. And talking of guests, I've got a guest coming on tonight. Now, this is a subject that I haven't covered in the past, so I'm quite excited for that. So this evening, we're going to talk about sexual addiction. Whoa. So without too much further ado, what I'll do is I'll get my guest in and we can start that conversation. So here we go. Logan, good evening, good afternoon, good morning.
That's right. Still morning here in Alaska. Good
Yeah,
morning.
coming all the way from Alaska. I mean, wow, you couldn't get any further away. I suppose the other side of the world, Australia, but Alaska's a fair hike from good old Blighty. So, Logan, welcome. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll have that conversation about your journey. Sounds fascinating. So, the platforms.
I appreciate it, Tim. Well, I guess I'll start giving you just a little bit of background of who I am today, rather than necessarily starting at the start of my life. So yeah, I'm Logan Hufford, and I am no longer in bondage to sexual addiction, and that's something that for a lot of years I never thought I could utter those words. I have been married now for almost 13 years, have an incredible marriage and friendship with my wife, Carrie. We've got four awesome boys, call them my little monkeys. They're almost 12, almost 11, almost 10, and just turned 8. Right now, they're little stair steppers, 11, 10, 9, 8. And I have this uh, wonderful life with, it's not perfect. It's not easy, but it's an incredible life. And it's something that I absolutely should not have. Um, I, it's like I did everything in my power to throw all of that away, and got myself trapped in a cycle of sexual addiction, lots of other unhealthy behaviors as well. But I had built this terrible, awful life of hurting my wife and basically everyone around me, and gotten to the point where the way I word it is I was trapped in a cave, and I got myself in there. I made the choices to get in there, and I take ownership of that. But I had got myself so deep into that cave that I legitimately didn't think that there was a way out. I did not think there was anything I could do to not be trapped anymore. And so I just resigned myself to that fate. I guess I'll never be a good dad. I'll never be a good husband. I'm just going to continue to hurt people. And in 2016, God introduced me to a man, and then some men around him who showed me a different way. And I can dive into all that, but again, I cannot emphasize enough for me to be able to sit here today and talk about incredible marriage and family that I have. Is like none of that should be there based on the choices that I made for so many years.
Wow. So you got yourself into it. What was the, I mean, what was the catalyst that started you on that journey? What got you into sexual addiction in the first place?
That's something that's kind of tricky because I can tell you what got me into it, and it's incredibly boring. What I mean by that is I've gotten to know so many men who have similar stories to mine of years of addiction, years of a double life, years of hurting people around them. And most men that have that type of story, now I'm saying men because I work with men. obviously there's, anyone that's an addict oftentimes has trauma and abuse and a rough early upbringing and no stable environment. I didn't have any of that. I didn't need a tangible, concrete bit of trauma to push me. Um, I had a very loving household. I never felt unsafe. I never felt unloved. And I don't say those words lightly at all. And yet, I was around 9 years old, and I started looking at pictures in like J.C. Penney catalogs. I was in a conservative family where we didn't have dirty magazines, and I'm younger than some, older than some. This was dial-up internet. This wasn't iPhones, and we didn't have stuff like that, right? So I started looking at J.C. Penney catalogs and women in lingerie, women in underwear, and I liked what that looked like. I liked how it made me feel. Didn't yet know what to do with those feelings. I just knew that I liked the feeling that I got when I would see that. Well, that then progressed and progressed and progressed. It went from there to photos online, to then hardcore videos of pornography, mixing that with masturbation, and then by the time I was in a relationship with my future wife, for the most part, most of this had been internal slash pornography. That was the manifestation of this sexual addiction. And of course, I didn't know that term, sexual addiction. When I met my wife, unfortunately, it went to a whole nother level, because I was in a relationship with her and I cheated on her for the first time before we even got married. And once I did that, the dam broke of what was not acceptable behavior, but behavior that I would tolerate from myself. I never thought I would do that. And once I did that, and as terrible as I felt, and I did feel terrible, that gave me an even stronger high. That gave me an even stronger hit, because of the risk taking, because of kind of the danger of it. And then I just started this whole double life of just constant affairs mixed with pornography. Eventually got to the point where I started hiring prostitutes. I mean, it was just a terrible, awful double life. And again, got myself into it 100%, made my choices. But it got to the point where I don't know how to do anything else, because my routines, my way of interacting with the world around me was as an addict who I'm just going to keep chasing because I guess that's all I can do, kind of thing.
Mm. And was that up in Alaska? I mean,
Yeah.
when you think of Alaska, it's like a massive wilderness with like a hamlet. Anchorage is like a small hamlet.
Right.
So, so were you able to find enough people, enough women to have affairs with and stuff like that at the time?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's interesting. I actually just had this conversation with somebody the other day. This person was in Manhattan. And he's like, it's just two different worlds, right? Manhattan versus Anchorage. Now, Anchorage is, it's a small town compared to Manhattan for sure, but it is, about 250,000 people, maybe more now. So there's definitely, there's people there. But yeah, I mean, where I live now is in Wasilla, and there's 30,000-40,000 people. But yeah, I mean, the short answer is yes. I was a car salesman for most of the time that my sexual addiction was really, really getting bad, for about 6 years. Um, and during that time, I mean, I basically preyed on any female that I came in contact with to get whatever I could get. If it was, only flirting, then I would take that. If I could get to where we were, texting and we could do some more, I would take that. If it could become a full-on sexual affair, I would take that. But I was a complete sociopath. I just squeezed whatever I could get out of any woman kind of in my radius. And I'm saying that kind of nonchalantly, almost clinically, and it's not to minimize it at all. What I definitely don't want to do is glorify any of it. I literally became someone that was a sociopathic, narcissistic, manipulative predator, and that's how I operated for years.
Mm. So I guess you got married in this time.
Yeah, I got married June 4th, 2011, and by that time, I'd already cheated on my wife multiple times.
Mm.
Um,
Did
I
she
confessed.
suspect?
No, not at that time. I mean, that's another thing that's, that's part of this too. Is, I mean, I worked very hard to protect, my addiction. I worked very hard to not get caught and cover my tracks. And it was this dichotomy of like this incredible risk taking and this incredible danger to everyone around me, including myself. And yet I also was extremely risk adverse, which it almost sounds like those two things can't reconcile. But
Mm.
it's almost like I'm going to, throw myself in the fire, but I'm also going to do whatever I can to try not to get burned. Meanwhile, of course, my family's getting burned, and all these women are getting
Yeah.
burned, but I'm going to try not to get burned. Um, yeah, a year after we got married, almost exactly a year, I felt really bad. I mean, to put it lightly, and I was like, well, I'm never going to do this again, even though that's ridiculous. I'd done it multiple times, and I wrote a letter and I confessed all these things. I say all these things. I mean, I don't remember exactly what my verbiage was, but my intent was to come clean,
Mm.
because in some silly way I thought that I would just toggle that switch off and not do it anymore. And so I confessed to my wife. Of course, she's broken. She's completely heartbroken, crushed, doesn't know how to respond. Um, and I don't remember exactly how many months it was, but I mean, had another affair and just, just kept, unfortunately, just kept on that train. And she responded, she would tell you now, by trying to be a better wife, trying to be sexier, and making sure that she wasn't going to be nagging, making sure she's got to stay in shape, and make herself more available sexually. And she was trying to do the right thing. She was trying to support me and love me, and she
Mm.
didn't. I mean, you talk about stigma, you know that's there's not there aren't many issues, I think, that are less talked about in the open, that are less understood than something like this. How does a wife respond?
Yeah.
If a man wants to change, how does he respond? And we just don't talk about it enough, which is what I'm trying to just shout from the rooftops, is like, hey, I'm not the world's foremost expert, but I'm somebody who's been in the trenches, and thank God I've come out the other side. Um,
Yeah. I
so,
mean, most women would turn her back on you and walk away,
oh yeah,
and never
had
ever
every right,
forgive
had
you.
every right.
Um, and I guess it's the breakdown in trust as well. That's probably one of the things that really hurts. Um, so I guess you've managed to come through that together, but you carried on for a time. How long did you carry on, and how soon did the kids come along?
Yeah. So a couple pieces there, I guess I'll zoom in on. So as far as the kids, so we got married young and we started having kids young. So I mean, as I know I'm jumping around a little bit, but as I've by the time I wrote that letter, we'd already had our first kid.
Mm.
Um, Elijah's our oldest, and we had four boys inside of about 5 years. All of my boys were born before I got sober, before I got clean. Um, in 2015, though, jumping ahead toward close to the end of the addiction part of my story, in 2015, I had yet another affair. And by at this time, my wife had, every time I would have an affair, I would confess to her. Again, in my head, I thought I was, I mean, it sounds ridiculous to even hear myself say it, but I kept thinking, like, I'm never going to do this again. I feel so bad. I'm never.
Mm.
And so she knew about these things. And each time I'm just stabbing her again and again and again. That's not what I thought that I was doing. That's not what, maybe that's not even what she thought, but that's what I was doing. Um, and I mean, the research shown now, when a woman is betrayed sexually, when she learns that her partner has been unfaithful, the the abuse that is, the trauma that is created in her from that, it has been completely marginalized. And that's something that, as I can share later, my wife, she got into recovery for that, and she now gives back. She works with women for that. that's a whole other piece. But in 2015, I'd given her, I'd confessed to her yet another affair, and she did something that she never had done before. And you just mentioned earlier, like, she didn't walk away from me. She didn't turn her back on me. And she did something now. She didn't leave me, but she also didn't just continue to stay with me status quo. She gave me an ultimatum, and she said, Logan, if you do not get serious help, if you don't make real change, then I will be gone and I will be taking the boys with me. And she was pregnant with our fourth boy at this time. Because again, I didn't actually get clean and get into recovery until about a year later. So, it still didn't toggle that switch off, but I started to dip my toes into recovery. Still didn't really get serious for several more months. But I mean, that part of the story, I always want to emphasize. And for any woman listening that maybe has gone through something like this, or the incredible thing that my wife did was not staying with her husband. I'm thankful that she was willing to be gracious enough to give our marriage another chance once I made real changes. But the incredible thing she did was she stood up to her abuser and said, I can't control if you're going to hurt me again, Logan. But if you do, I can control whether or not I leave, and I will be leaving. And I believe that she meant that. Because again, she had never given me an ultimatum before. She does not just speak rashly. I absolutely knew that she meant that. And so, started going to some meetings, started kind of dipping my toes. And I really would say I started playing around with recovery. I didn't take it very seriously. The example of that is I met a man who would go on to become my mentor, and an incredibly pivotal man in my life. I mean, literally, God used this guy to impact me in more ways than any other human on this earth, other than, I suppose, my wife. And this man, incredible loving, incredible gracious guy. I told him at one point, I'd been attending some meetings, still wasn't sober, still wasn't making any behavioral changes really. And I said, hey, could we get together for coffee every now and again? And in my mind, like, that was really taking a step. That would be seriously working on it, is like, besides a weekly meeting, like, I'm willing to even get coffee with him, as if that was some big thing. And he looked me dead in the eyes and said, Logan, if you want to get coffee every now and again, I don't have time for you. And that shook me, and that hurt me. Like, that was offensive to me. And then he quickly followed it up and he said, if you want to seriously work on things, I will help you. I will walk with you, and it will be hard work. And you might hate me sometimes. You're definitely going to hate the work sometimes, but that's what I think you need. And so, I mean, nobody had ever given me an ultimatum like my wife did. And nobody had ever talked to me like that man had talked to me. So those were two pivotal times where it was, God kind of, splashing cold water on my face going, you're not going to continue steamrolling everyone in your path. Those days are done. Because that's what I'd gotten so used to. And so again, it was still a journey, but those were two huge pivotal moments in the summer of 2015. And then that would have been kind of that winter that I had that conversation with that man, Rick. And then he started mentoring me in May of 2016 and graduated from basically a voluntary house arrest program May of 2018. And then, I mean, recovery has never left our daily routines. Tonight, my wife and I will be leading. I'll be leading a men's group for men struggling with sexual addiction. She'll be leading a group for women, just like she attended or has attended for years, to heal from the betrayal trauma. So this is our life's work at this point.
So now you're in recovery, and you started going to these groups. Could you explain a bit about how these groups operate, what sort of conversations are had, what the process is of leading you through that part of recovery?
Absolutely. So there are different types of groups, and I'm a big believer in a group is only as strong as the people leading it and the people in it. The curriculum matters. And having resources and tools, definitely those absolutely matter. But having men that have real healing, again in this case men, having people in a group that have real healing is such a big bonus. Because I went to some groups before, and guys were trying to do what they could to lead it, but it's like, this guy has a couple months of sobriety, this guy has 6 months of sobriety, and there just wasn't a lot of long-term healing, long-term change. And I mean, thank God that those people were even trying to put a meeting together, but it was hard. It was a hard infrastructure to really grow in. And so in these groups, it was called prodigals. The group that I went to with the man after that coffee conversation, he took me to a group called Prodigals, and that's the group that I lead now, is a branch out in Wasilla. One of the big things that we do differently. So number one, it is a Christ-based recovery program. Now, a guy doesn't have to be a Christian to attend, but we do make it very clear. Like, you're going to hear about God. You're going to hear about, the change that has been made in my life because of Christ. But, a guy doesn't have to share our faith to attend. One of the huge differences in our groups versus any group that I've ever attended, SAA, Celebrate Recovery, which are, again, these are not bad groups, but they're just, it's a big difference, is most groups don't allow for feedback. They don't allow for what's called crosstalk. So if I show up to a meeting and I share how my day has gone, or how my week has gone, or what the last bit of my life has looked like, I share. You want it to be a safe space, so nobody says anything, and then you share, the next guy shares, or whatever. And it's meant to create a safe space. But what that allows for me to do, I'm an addict, I'm a narcissist, I'm a sociopath, I'm a manipulative master trickster of other people. I've gotten really, really good at putting the wool over people's eyes. That's how I got away with all this stuff. The last thing I need is a lack of feedback. I needed guys to poke me in the gut and be like, dude, what are you talking about? You said this last week, and they said this week. Like, these things don't match up. Or, okay, Logan, for the last 4 weeks, you keep saying, I've struggled in this area, and but I'm going to do better next week. What actual tangible behaviors have you changed since then? Like, what structures in your routine have you implemented or taken away? I mean, so they would get into the nitty gritty of, like, what are the concrete things you're doing differently? Let's walk through that. And usually the answer early on was like, oh, I don't know, I'm just going to try better. It's like, no, that's not how this works. I was not allowed to go camping without permission and a written safety plan that was like 3, 4, 5, 6 pages, detailing what the trip would look like, detailing how I'm going to behave safely from a sexual addiction standpoint, but also from a life standpoint. Like, okay, I struggle with anger. I'm going to be camping with my 4 kids. How am I going to behave in a way to not lash out in anger? How am I going to behave just in a safe, appropriate, healthy way in general? So it absolutely, I mean, our program, our groups, they are a safe place for any guy to come and not receive judgment because he's done terrible things. However, we do expect guys to take ownership. Like, people did not, they gave me a safe place to come, but it's like, but we don't expect you to stay here. We expect you to work on things, to take ownership of things. And we are going to call you out. We're going to ask you tough questions. We're going to hold your feet to the fire. And if you act out, you break your sobriety, we're going to welcome you back with open arms. But we're not just going to give you only grace and warm and fuzzies. It's like, we're also going to get in your face in an appropriate way when you need it. And again, that's just like that. I'd never had that in my life. And I would have bristled if anybody tried to give me that before.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds, doesn't sound like overly a safe place when you've got blokes pointing out the errors of your ways and
Right.
and making sure that you know that you've done wrong and you need to do something to put it right. And they won't accept half-assed answers. They want to see
Yep.
tangible stuff. So, yeah. So it might be a safe place, but not a safe place. I get that.
Well,
So,
so the way you said that, I've literally I've never had this thought in my head before, but I love C.S. Lewis. I love the Chronicles of Narnia books. There is something I've shared before about a different a metaphor that I use for recovery that's in those. But if anyone's familiar, Aslan, basically the
Yeah.
figure representing God in Chronicles of Narnia, somebody asks, is he tame? Is he safe? And the response is no, he's not tame. Again, this is representing God, right? He's not tame. He's not safe, but he's good. He's loving.
Mm.
And that's kind of like when you just said that, it's like that kind of is also that, yeah, that would be true of these guys that have been a part of my life. A lot of these guys have been a part of my life for eight years now. It's not about them being nice. It's not about them being kind. Now, have I experienced a lot of kindness and a lot of love? Absolutely. I mean, these men have bent over backwards to help me and help my family in ways that went completely outside of just sexual addiction recovery. But it wasn't about me having somebody just be nice to me and just be my buddy. Like Rick, my mentor, he has truly become my best friend outside of my wife. He didn't start out that way. That was not the point of the relationship. He has become a grandpa to my kids. He's become my dad, essentially. And yet, it's like that wasn't, it wasn't that way for a while. It took time, and it started out as he's my accountability partner, he's my mentor. The rest of it, by God's grace, has come, but it didn't start out just as my nice friend.
Mm. So, in all that last 8 years, then, have you ever fallen off the rails or thought about it?
100% thought about it. Um, those thoughts have consistently gotten less and less intense, have gotten less and less kind of tangible. And to say fallen off the rails, I've stayed sober since May 19th, 2016, in the sense of, so masturbation to pornography, sexual affairs, anything of that nature. I've those first 2 years, especially the first year, I put myself in very dangerous spots multiple times.
Mm.
Absolutely did stuff where it's like, hold on, I'm like, I'm doing what? I'm putting myself in this area. What? Like, by God's grace, I didn't break sobriety, but I mean, it was not even at that moment, I have a sobriety date and I get a coin every year, celebrating that fact, but it still
Yeah.
wasn't a toggle switch off. We talk a lot about it's progressive victory, not perfection.
Mm.
So I mean, yeah, the arrow is going up, but it's going up and down and up and but it's absolutely something where 3 steps forward, 1 step back kind of a deal. But I mean,
Mm.
I would say it took about 2 years before I could actually like look myself in the mirror and confidently go, yeah, I don't have to cheat anymore. I don't need porn anymore. Um,
Mm.
my, right before I graduated in March of 2018. So just a couple months before I graduated, I was just short of 2 years sober. My wife and kids and I all went down to Arizona we were down there for a week vacation, and is the first trip that I took during the entire program I was in. And again, had to do a big safety plan and all this, make 2 phone calls every single day, checking in with brothers. And she and the kids planned to stay down there for an extra period of time with family. And then I was going to come back. And I was home for 3 weeks. The fact that my wife was okay with me being home alone for 3 weeks logically like doesn't make any sense, except there had been that much, again, I mean, trust between me and her, yes, that had been built. But almost more importantly, at that time in our lives, there was so much trust between her and the program, between her and my mentor's wife who was mentoring her. She knew that, yeah, it wasn't her job to fix me. It wasn't her job to hold me accountable. Other guys were doing that. And so during that 3 week period, I mean, again, I say voluntary house arrest. There was no legal structure to it. I didn't have to do it legally, but it was kind of like that. When I would go to work, I would send a selfie to my mentor. When I would go to lunch, I would send a selfie to him. go back to work, send another selfie showing, where I'm at and everything. Now those kind of things, those aren't around anymore. I definitely have weaned myself off of a lot of that stuff. And I don't think it would be healthy for anyone to try to live their life like that forever. But I needed to do it for a period of time. I needed to relearn how to interact with the world around me, and absolutely kind of crawl and then walk and then, then training wheels and then a bicycle. Whereas before I was just driving a Ferrari around like a 12-year-old kid, driving a Ferrari around, banging into everything. I needed to completely have my routines and the infrastructure of my life stripped away and then regrown organically.
So, what would your advice be to anybody that's into this spiral of sexual addiction? How would you, what would you suggest to somebody if they are going down this route of getting deeper and deeper into it?
I probably should think of like one really good answer, because when a lot of times I've been asked this question. I don't have one specific thing. There's a couple that I'll put out there. Number one, if a guy is struggling, admittedly struggling, but maybe in his mind it's only fill in the blank, like, oh, it's only porn. I've never cheated on my wife. It's only porn. Or, okay, I cheated on my wife one time 10 years ago, but I would never do it again. But like nothing has actually changed for the better. He just has internalized everything. To the guy that's minimizing, basically, like, just recognize these things don't just go away on their own. Now, I might white knuckle, like maybe if I cheated on my wife once or twice and I've not done it anymore, more than likely it's because I haven't been willing to like take that risk necessarily. But if I haven't actually done any work to change my belief system, to change the infrastructure of my decision making, there's probably other harms that I'm doing. If it's only porn, I'm still putting something else and chasing after that. So I would just encourage that guy to know this doesn't just go away on its own, and it is progressive. I mean, because it is an addiction. It is something where I have to chase more and more of a hit, more and more of a harder version, essentially. And then, to a guy that has recognized, like, for me in 2015, I had absolutely built up these terrible habits, but I wanted a way out. I just didn't think that there was a way out. So, if there's a guy listening that has, that recognizes like, I can't get out of this life. I can't stop.
Yeah.
I would say what my mentor said, which is it's not going to be easy and it's going to take some hard freaking work. But if you're willing to do
that's the key to it all, isn't it? It's recognizing that A, you've got a problem,
right,
and B, then looking for a solution.
Yeah.
And I think that
and
is
real behavior
the big key
change
to
is
takeaway.
not.
Yeah.
And it's not gonna come. I mean, I use the word tangible and concrete all the time, because while there is a huge spiritual element, I believe, to this, and there's a huge emotional component to this as well. But I need concrete and tangible behavior changes as well, not by themselves. Like, those need to be coupled with mindset shifts. They need to be coupled with getting in touch with my emotions in a healthy way. It's a mixture of those things. But when I'm working with a guy and I go, hey, so what did it look like when you're in this situation? He was like, well, I kind of struggle. Like, well, what does that mean? That's fluffy. That's nebulous. What does that mean?
Yeah.
Like, well, I did this and then this happened. Or, okay, so what are you going to do differently? I'll try to be better. No, not try to be better. When this happens, these are some specific correctives that you can work on, implementing. But you're absolutely right. A guy's got to want to do things differently. He's got to want a better life and recognize that it's an issue.
Yeah. And I guess that's the key. You've got to want it, and you've got to really want it, and you really don't want to hurt anybody again.
Right.
Because that's what it does, doesn't it? It does hurt those that are closest to you.
Absolutely.
Well, Logan, I think that has been a fascinating insight into an addiction that I've not covered before on the show. So I just thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you so much for the
And
opportunity again, just shout it from the rooftops a little bit.
yeah, um, and is there anywhere that somebody is that has recognised they've got a problem? Where could they go?
So I am gonna I'll make sure that you have my email, our recovery email. It goes to myself and it goes to my wife Carrie. So if a man or a woman, again, because obviously there's two different resources here. If a man or a woman is struggling, if they have questions, then they can reach out. Now, I'm not coming on here selling, a coaching course or a book, or I mean, I'm just trying to shout from the rooftops. But if
Mm,
somebody wants to reach out, if they're like, hey, I've Googled it and I can't find a group anywhere near me that deals with this, I don't know of any counselor that deals with this, they can reach out. I don't know exactly what all that conversation will look like, but I'm willing to have the conversation. My wife is willing to have that conversation. Um, but I will say there are, thankfully, the resources in this area have definitely grown a lot over the last couple decades.
mm,
They're still very limited compared to how big of a problem it is, but they have grown a lot. So I can recommend books and things of that nature, but at the end of the day, I need humans in my life who are helping me. I need humans who are holding me accountable. I need other people who care about me, ideally in person, but I also, if somebody lives 2 hours from the nearest town, which again, I'm very familiar with up here, and there's no group within driving distance, okay, we've got Zoom nowadays. We all got Zoom. We've
yeah,
all got FaceTime. We've got options. So again, if somebody wants it, there's resources. And if you need help finding resources, absolutely, you can reach out to me, and I can talk with you about what that would look like.
fantastic. Thank you so much for that insight.
Thanks again for the opportunity.
Wow, that has been fascinating. That's the first time that I've covered sexual addiction on the show. We've covered lots of other addictions, but that has really been insightful and hopefully going to be useful. So, if anybody is out there that is overly sexually active and cheating and all the rest of it, and you recognise you've got a problem, then there's always somewhere you can go, and if not, the links to Logan is will be in the description. So until next week, thank you for your time, and I'll see you again. TTFN. Ta-ta for now.